This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 192 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Equestrian Collections and Kentucky Performance Products.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Loxahatchee, Florida.
And this is Philip Parks from Fergus, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show with our producer, Glenn, as well.
Hey, guys.
Good.
Well, there was a big dressage week last week, wasn't there?
It was a big week. It really was. And I have to be honest, I unfortunately had to miss it. I was home in Kentucky for a few days. I had an obligation to go home. So I missed it, which was such a bummer. But I do hope that everybody, I was in the tornadic weather that went through. So I hope everybody is safe and sound and all your horses are good. It was really scary weather there yesterday and a little bit today. So, Philip, did you get any of that yucky weather? Or you just have yucky weather?
Horrible all the time. Okay. So
He's buried in snow. Snow is covering the roof of the house.
Yeah, he's cranky again, ladies. One more week of crankiness. Soon, Philip will
No,
come
I'm
down.
not going to be cranky about it. I was cranky last week. I'm not cranky about it this week. It's fine. It's just a reality. I was really interested to read all the articles coming out of Wellington about the Masters. We've got, I think, two great guests on today.
Yeah, we have some friends of the show. We have Mary Lawrenson and Jody Kelly. That they both went to the Masters and they both also went to the Global Dressage Forum. So I'm really looking forward to their perspective. Each of them, they'll be different, and you'll get to see kind of two different points of view. And we have Nicholas Fife, who actually was had to sadly withdraw from the Masters. But he is coming on to do a trainer tip for us. So it should be a really action-packed show.
Yeah, I understand that Nicholas is an Australian rider who is now kind of based in Wellington. Is that right?
Yeah, and I think in the summer he's in Canada. Am I right with that?
Yeah, actually I saw him at a couple shows up here. So, yeah, that's a world traveling guy.
Exactly. So he'll be really interesting, and I look forward to his tip. But, Philip, tell us a little bit about the results from the Masters.
Well, it looks like Tina Williamson-Sylvan and Dawn Arillo won the freestyle, and her teammate, Patrick Kittle, won the Grand Prix with Watermill Scandic.
Yeah, and then Patrick was second in the freestyle, and apparently Tina, if you can watch it online, was absolutely phenomenal. So it would be worth taking a look at it. And I know it's online, and I need to also watch it. But and then Stephen Peters was third in the freestyle, and I think he had a lot of fun. It was Legolas's kind of first time in a big show like that down here. So I think everything was quite good from him. And Heather Blitz was fourth. So and then Lars Peterson was fifth. So it was a good freestyle night for everybody.
So how did we do with our predictions? Did anybody get it right? I didn't.
I didn't.
No, I didn't either.
No.
Well, we all had kind of some of our favorite riders in the top spots, and nobody predicted.
I think I got it. I think I got the top three right. I just didn't get the placings right. So.
Yeah.
I
know. Well, bummer. Did anybody online? We had some people play on Facebook, so I don't know. I'd have to look back and see if anybody got it.
I think that Don Aurelio threw us a curve here.
Yeah, because I had seen him the weekend before, and he is wonderful. And I think she was really smart. She brought him to the CDI the week before the Masters, and he was really tense. But you could see there were moments that were just phenomenal. And so she did a really smart writing thing and took him to the CDI and was really prepared because the Masters evening is really, really busy and crazy. So it was good to it was smart on her part. And also Patrick Kittle had ridden the week before, so he did the same thing. Stefan did not have Legolas in that competition, and Heather Blitz rode in the open show, so she didn't do the CDI part. So, yeah, it was really, really a smart move on her part, and he was able to settle down because it is so electric in that arena for Masters Night, and everybody's there and partying and having a great time, and you have the the VIP tables right by the ring, so you have people eating and drinking and glasses and the whole 9 yards. So it's a fun event, and I do next year if you can get down to see it. It's a lot of fun. And I did hear that Edward Gall sadly had to withdraw from the freestyle. Poor guy had the flu, came to America and then got the flu, so he did not ride.
Didn't he get the flu for something else too?
I'm not sure.
We talked about.
I'm not sure, but he Hans-Peter Mendenhall rode his horse as for an exhibition, so everybody got to see his horse. But poor guy, that was kind of a sad.
That's really
news.
Disappointing. Yeah, to ship the horse all the way over, and I don't know how long they're staying or whether they're going to compete, in another show. But that would be really disappointing to get sick. Too sick to ride, sort of thing.
Yeah,
but the flu has been awful this year. I don't know if it's the same way in Canada, but boy, it's been.
Yeah, I guess in New York they're declaring kind of emergency states of.
Yeah, I mean half our hosts on the network here are out, so it's been bad.
Yeah, so poor guy, he got it, so he had to withdraw from the competition. So, but it was an interesting week, and I can't wait to hear from Mary and Jody about their perspectives. And also, there was a great program here. It was the Global Dressage Forum that actually
North America.
North America.
Put that in, right? Because there's a bit of controversy back and forth between the GDF in Europe and the GDF they're not affiliated, right? And
that's what I understand. Yeah,
using the same name, so we'll just call it the GDF.
North America. Yes, exactly.
Listeners
so they're going to talk to us a little bit about who was there. So just some of the clinicians were Stefan Stammer, Bo Jenna, Ingrid Klemke, Dr. Hillary Clayton, Wolfgang Wittig, Ann Gribbons, Kathy Connolly, Betsy Steiner, Leslie Reed, Jan Ebeling, Felicitas von Neumann-Cassel, Christoph Hess, Stephen Clark, Wilm Ernst,
keep going,
Gary Walkwell, T. Brad, Lyndon Gray,
Sue
and
Blanks.
Sue Blanks. So, I mean, this one I was really sad I was out of town for. So I can't wait because those panelists, there are some phenomenal people on there and really an amazing thing. So,
really top names in that. So I really want to know how that went.
Me too.
Let's find out. Let's get Mary. Now, Mary Lawrenson actually is one of the young riders that we have followed here on the Horse Radio Network on the various shows for years. And she's probably been on 3 or 4 different shows here on the Horse Radio Network, including the morning show. She gives us regular updates every couple months on dressage. So we're looking forward to having her on. But let's take a break for Equestrian Collections, and then we'll be right back with Mary. Hi, Glenn here, founder of the Horse Radio Network, and I am with Debbie from Equestrian Collections with Equestrian Collections Product of the Week.
This time of year, the mares, the early foals are beginning to arrive. The thoroughbreds that are specifically bred to be foaling in January, sometimes the mares that caught a little bit later in the year, they're foaling now during a cold time of the year. And so you want to have on hand a foal blanket so that if you do have a foal in the cold, that you have something you can wrap him up in. The one I'm featuring this week is the WeatherBeeta Growing Foal Stable Blanket. And I featured this one because it is so adjustable. It adjusts from 42 inches to 57 inches, which is a lot. So you only need the one. It's 180 grams of polyfill, which is a little bit less than medium weight, so it's really good. It's a stable blanket, so it's for when they're inside. So it's really good for, a little bit more than lightweight and a little bit less than medium weight. So it's really good for that. And it's a 300 denier, so it's really strong. And it comes from WeatherBeeta, which is, of course, a very well-known brand. So I thought that this would be a really good thing for those of you who are expecting winter foals to maybe consider keeping on hand. And it's only $50, so it's a real good safety feature for early spring foaling.
And you can find them at equestriancollections.com. Just search for WeatherBeeta Growing Foal Stable Blanket at equestriancollections.com.
Well, we're really happy to have Mary Lawrenson on the Dressage Radio Show, finally, to have her on our show. She's a good friend of the Horse Radio Network. And Mary, you went to the Masters and also the GDF, the Global Dressage Forum, North America. So we are looking forward to hearing about, if we can start with the Masters. Can you tell us and all our listeners a little bit about what happened at the Masters?
Sure. Well, I only attended the freestyle night of the Masters. The evening kicked off with a demonstration of Edward Gall with his partner Hans-Peter Minderhund, and they did a really interesting demonstration just showing their techniques, and also for those in the audience that weren't familiar with the Grand Prix Dressage test, they went through all the movements. So we did have an opportunity to see Hans ride Edward Gall's horse, Inter 4, next one I believe it was. And unfortunately, Edward had to scratch due to a flu, and Hans was having some apparent issues with his horse. So both of them had scratched for their competition, but we were really lucky that we at least got to see some of their technique and riding at the beginning of the evening. And then we just had a really great list of riders that rode through the evening. My favorite, of course, was the winner, which was Tina Wilhelmsen and her horse Don Aurelio, and she just had a spotless test, one that, was definitely in a class of its own. So the Swedish did very well at this competition, including Patrick Tittle, who was also here competing. I also saw some riders that I hadn't seen perform before that were here from Europe. Of course, I'm a huge fan of Stefan Peters, and he had a fantastic test as well on his new mount, Legolas. So there were some really great rides for everybody to see that evening.
For somebody that wasn't there, can you tell us, I'm interested in the training session before the competition. Can you tell us maybe something that you took away from it, or something that you gleaned from how they ride and train?
I would say, that they tend to ride their horses a little bit deeper and rounder at the beginning. So they showed just a very basic warm-up and then ran through the Grand Prix. I would say, though, one of the things I probably took away from it was just the intense attention to detail, which we all obviously strive for. But watching these two and watching the Dutch system, obviously they've done very, very well throughout the years. You could see just the attention to detail, and Hans, would maybe make a mistake, and while him and Edward were working together, they would go right back to the movement and drill it over again, and then show, exactly what they corrected. For instance, the pirouettes on the center line from the Grand Prix, the horse stepped out, and then he would immediately bring the horse right back to it. I would say probably the biggest thing to note was just their attention to detail and the repetition of the movements if it wasn't 100%.
No, I think that's such a good observation, too, because Mary, at the trainers conference with Stefan Peters the week before, he was the same way. He was absolutely spot on with details. And I think that was one of the things that I took away. So it's interesting that, here you have a different camp with Hans-Peter and with Edward, and, seeing the same thing is just another good reminder for all of us. Attention to detail. That's where we get our points. So
exactly.
Can you talk a little bit, for people that weren't there, about the atmosphere of the Masters?
The atmosphere was good. I've been lucky enough to attend the last 3 Dressage Masters that have been held in Wellington. It was a little bit disappointing because the seats were not full. Last year, they definitely had more of a crowd, and so it was a bit of a shame to see that, especially some of the VIP tables that are quite expensive were not full this year. And I had heard complaints leading up to the competition, that the tickets are very expensive, and to put on such a big show, of course, they need that sort of income to really make the production go smoothly and look beautiful. But there were definitely more people this year that opted not to come and watch the evening.
Well, it sounds like a really wonderful night anyways for all those that did go. Maybe we could switch gears and move on to the Global Dressage Forum North America and how that went. Yeah.
This is something I was very excited about and have been looking forward to for months. Of course, many of us dressage people know about the Global Dressage Forum that happens over in Europe at the Bartels Academy, and that's been going on for a number of years. So there's a lot of controversy about it being held here in the United States by someone different and under a similar name. It was an absolute pleasure to have the caliber of trainers and riders in the U.S. for a change. We just had an incredible panel, from Stefan and on to people such as Arthur Kotas and Wolfram Wittig, all these people that we rarely get to see here in the United States. And it was a great 2 days, absolutely jam-packed with information, great demonstrations, interesting interviews, and there was just a wealth of information to walk away with. And I think it was especially beneficial to any of the trainers that are here in Wellington or the people that traveled from other places to attend the forum. There was a lot to take away from it.
So who and or what was your favorite demonstration?
I would have to say it was really interesting getting to know Ingrid Klimke a bit more. Basically, how it ran with most of the presenters was that Andreas, who managed the whole forum, would take the trainer aside and have a really nice sort of personal interview over in his little couch area. It was sort of like watching a television show. And after that, they'd go on and do an actual demonstration. And as many people know, Ingrid Klimke is not only a renowned dressage trainer, but has also done very well in the eventing world. And so she, has this great approach to combining, jumping and cross country with her dressage training, and feels that a horse is a horse and that she can improve her jumpers and she can improve her dressage horses working over fences or working on the flat. And she sat on a stallion, a 5-year-old stallion that's bred here in the U.S. for the first time, and she sort of ran the audience through her typical training session. And just like I mentioned earlier, with that attention to detail and repetition, if something doesn't go quite the way that we want it to, she was very careful to repeat a corner if the horse fell in, or repeat an exercise if it didn't go exactly the way that she had hoped for. But she also included some cavaletti, which she's really famous for, and what her father obviously was known for as well. Just showing really how to balance the dressage horse's mind and body by using things more than just, a 20 by 60 dressage arena, and really, having the horses work outdoors on different surfaces and over fences. And she just had some really interesting ideas about really the well-being of the horse and letting them get excited by their work by changing things up, day to day.
Now, I'm a little more curious about the format of the GDF. Now, I understand they introduced a certain trainer in the demonstration, but how were the other trainers involved? How was the audience involved? How did that all go together?
Well, so basically the schedule was that it started at 1 o'clock and ran up until almost 10 p.m., which is one of probably the negative things about the event, and it was a bit long, especially for us horse people that have to get up so early. I think that next year will probably be even better organized, and that hopefully that they can make some of the presentations a little shorter and sweeter. They had a great panel of judges and trainers also, that after a particular rider or trainer was interviewed and gave their demonstration, they had a panel that was sitting up on stage throughout the whole presentation that they would then turn to, and the panel would open discussion. And the discussion would be held between, say, Ingrid, Anne Gribbons, Kathy Conley. They had people such as Stephen Clark up there. They had a really great panel that would then open up this whole can of worms with the trainer and sort of talk over their demo and their philosophies. So that was definitely the best part. The demonstrations were great in themselves, but then it would be really sort of exciting to see what some of our best trainers and our top judges would then say about the particular trainer's views. As far as incorporating the audience, there were a few times opportunities for the audience to come down and ask a question over the microphone. So it was nicely interactive in that way. I think overall it was run very well.
Excellent. And so, Mary, tell us a little, I'm curious on how they did the long lining and sort of maybe a little bit of alternative training. How did they introduce that?
Well, that was really interesting because here in the U.S., it's such an art, the long lining. and you don't see it done so often here. Kathy Conley, one of our American trainers, is of course really well known for her work on the long lines. But other than that, you don't hear very often about a trainer taking a time out of their week to long line their horses. And Bo Jenna from Sweden he is a master at long lining, and you really have to know what you're doing when you're long lining a horse, and he makes it look so easy, but many of us know how difficult it really is. And so his demonstration, he used two different horses, one that was a little more advanced than the other, and he was able to perform, everything from a turn on the forehand to leg yield to pee-off. That was really amazing to see, and I'm so happy that they actually did a live demonstration of that. I remember one thing that I wrote down was the fact that, I guess he was asked at one point, how often do you long line your horses? And he said, well, how often do you ride? You can ride as much as you long line, and he doesn't think that, he thinks, as long as you can do it well, you can long line a horse just as well as you ride it. So I thought that was a really, interesting remark of his. So I certainly enjoyed that, and I was really grateful that I got to see that in person.
Well, Mary, thank you for coming on and discussing the whole exciting dressage week last week of Wellington, and for the people that weren't able to go down there. How does everybody find you on the internet?
Well, you can find me. My website is temporarily down, but you can find me on windhorsedressageacademy.com. That's our training business. And I'm also very active on Facebook if you search Mary Lauritsen. And I'm also on Twitter, and my username is Mary Dressage.
She tweets a lot.
Oh,
I
okay.
tweet a lot.
Yes.
I'm a big tweeter.
Great. Well, thank you so much for the interview.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on again.
After this word from Kentucky Performance Products, we're going to talk with Jody Kelly of Jody Kelly Dressage about her experience at the Global Dressage Forum as well.
Well, if you're a regular listener to the show, you know we talk a lot about Kentucky Performance Products, and that's because they are a name you can trust to give you the most value for your supplement money. Kentucky Performance Products offers supplements designed to target specific problems and are made with high-quality ingredients included at effective levels. The company's supplements are intended to complement, not compete, with your dressage horse's current feeding program, guarding against over-supplementation, and each product is backed by sound research and a money-back satisfaction guarantee. And today we'd like to talk to you about Nalox, the original equine antacid. It's recommended by veterinarians and leading horsemen as a way of maintaining a healthy stomach, which reduces the risk of ulcers. Nalox can be given daily to horses exposed to stressful conditions or as needed when shipping, competing, or during stall confinement. You can learn about Nalox and all the products at Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com. That's Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com.
Well, I am so happy to have a friend of the Dressage Radio Show, Jody Kelly, back on for her second time. And she is going to also give us her perspective on the Global Dressage Forum North America. So, Jody, tell us about who was your favorite?
I just have to say, first of all, I'm so glad that they're doing this and starting this up here in Wellington. And it's such a great experience for all of us. And it definitely had a few glitches, but it's kind of one of those that everybody has to be there for the first one and have a first one in order for it to get rolling. And it was just, I thought it was such a great experience for everybody. I thought all of the people were really great and really perfectly, it was a perfect variation of people and different things that were talked about. So nothing really got repetitive. Nothing got too long into, none of course, nothing was boring. It was all interesting, but there's only so much you can take in at one time, but everything was different enough that it was like a whole new subject each time. But I have to say, out of all of the clinicians and all of the lectures, Ingrid Klemkler I actually posted on Facebook that she's my new hero. I just thought she was such a breath of fresh air and so friendly and so, I mean, I'd like to say so easy to talk to, but I wasn't talking to her. But she just was so, it was so great to listen to and fun, and just made just listening to her made you want to go gallop on your horse, your dressage horse or your jumper or whatever it is that you ride. She made you want to go have fun with your horse. And I think that was the biggest thing, is she spoke about her training, and she spoke about her different groups of horses that she has, because she, of course, does the eventing at world level and also does the dressage. And she was speaking about each of her groups of horses, and she has her event horses and she has her dressage horses. But the common denominator with everything was fun, and of course, obviously, it's serious because she does the Olympics and she does these huge Grand Prix, but everything is fun, and she just it was just such a great reminder that at the end of the day, riding is fun, and I loved it. It just was so enlightening. And she rode a young horse, and it was a dressage horse that in the end she actually jumped him a little bit. All of her dressage horses jump a little bit. Of course, her eventers do dressage, and it just was a really great variation of what you just don't normally see in the everyday dressage ring,
Yeah.
The other one that I really loved, of course, was Stefan. He's always a crowd favorite, and he's again also very interactive with the crowd. What I really truly enjoyed too was in the beginning of every session with each new clinician, they had like couch time. They literally had little white couches off to the side, and Andreas would take them over and sit with them. And I think that some people felt that got a little too long-winded. I personally loved it because it was truly what they called getting to know whoever, Stefan, Ingrid. And they spoke very frankly about just day-to-day life, their fitness things, like how Ingrid balances with her husband and her kids. They just spoke about them. It wasn't training. It wasn't how to get your horse to do this, this, or this. It was just who they are and how they live this life. And I think that's such a challenge for everybody, to find that balance and figure out how to live this crazy life of horses and still have family and still have friends and still balance it. And they all spoke a lot about that, and a lot of their just approaches to things outside the arena that you wouldn't always see from a training perspective. I thought that was really special from all of them. We heard about it. Every one of them went to the couch for just a little while, and I really appreciated that part.
Now, were there other things that you enjoyed about the format of the GDF, or maybe things that you found didn't work so great?
Yeah, I thought the format was really good. I honestly went into it with zero expectations. I really had no idea how they were going to do it, no idea what was going to happen. I was really surprised to walk in the first day and there was a big curtain, and it was just like there was no arena. And I was like, how's this going to work? And I thought it was really cool because obviously, we were at the Jim Brannon Arena, so I knew the arena was behind the curtain, but it was neat how they had it set up, and they pulled the curtains back, and there was the arena, and they do the demo, and then they close them. So I thought all of that was really neat. I thought it was set up fantastic. I actually read on Brian O'Connor's Facebook that the venue was really difficult for them to set up with different logistics and stuff. But from my perspective, from the spectator's perspective, I didn't see anywhere that they had any issues. They covered it up really well. We could hear very well. We could see, I feel like everybody from all perspectives could see everything really well. Like I said, I really liked the couch time. What they did is they went from the couch time to then the instructor would go, either some of them rode, some of them taught, or they did a little bit of both. And then the panel, they had a panel for each person to have discussions with. And I thought that was really neat. I kind of feel like they maybe could have figured out how to get the panel a little bit more interactive, like because they ended up sitting there for a large portion of the time. And these are all pretty very respected and, so to speak, experts in their own way. that, I don't know, I think maybe they could have utilized them just a little bit more somehow, but I'm not really sure how, just to get it a little bit more of a conversation, of a working, going back and forth. I would love to have maybe somehow gotten a little bit more crowd interaction too, as far as us being able to ask questions, because the panel would ask questions at the end of the seminar, at the end of each ride or demo. But they were questions, of course they were very good questions because they were questions that they had come up with. But as I was writing, sitting there writing down notes, and I was coming up with all different questions of my own, wishing that I had a way to do that. And they did do that with one person. At the end, they had a little bit of extra time. They had a little bit of crowd, and of course that was the one person I didn't have any questions for. But I think that would have been something that, and you run that risk of getting ridiculous questions, or the questions that people ask that are specific to their one particular horse. But I think they could have a way of filtering the questions a little bit, and still be able to get the people a little bit more involved. But overall, I really, really enjoyed it, and I thought it was great. I really actually appreciated the fact that it started after lunch. It gave us all a chance to get our horses done, and everybody there were horse people, of course, and I'd say probably most of them had horses in the area. And it gave us a chance to get the horses done for the day and do all of that, and then just really have that time to be able to sit and soak it all in, and and just be exposed to so many different things. I really loved I think one of my favorites was also Bo Jenna with his long lining. I just think he's such a master, and I was lucky enough to work with him a few times with one of my mares, and what he can get a horse to do from the ground is just, I think, absolutely amazing. And I mean, he essentially rides them from the ground, and he did a really, really great demo, and explained it very well, and answered some really, really neat questions, and got me kind of all refreshed to pull my long lines out again. So,
I want to hear how that goes, because I practice, but I still can't get it like that.
What? I love it. I have to say I love it, because when I first did a clinic with him, I thought, no way, this is not going to happen, and it took me a little while. But the cool thing with him, and I wasn't working with him here, but when I was working with him, the neatest thing he did was, like, he could actually stand there with me, and there's so many times that I wish that as I'm teaching people that I could actually hold the reins with them, like put my hands on their hands. And, you can do it when you're standing next to them, but obviously as their horse is cantering around, you can't put your hands over their hands and say, squeeze like this. And he can. And he would actually stand in the middle of the ring with me when I was long lining, and hold the reins a little bit in front of my hands and say, this is what you need to feel. He'd hold the reins a little bit behind mine and say, like, he'd feel what I was doing. And it's really, really cool to be able to have that kind of instruction in the moment that your horse is cantering, or, things that when you're kind of on your own when you're riding them,
Yeah.
And he's just really gifted with that. And so quick, like, you watch him and he's one step ahead of him. I presume he's pretty masterful on a horse. I personally have never seen him ride. I've only ever seen him with the long lining stuff. And he's just like when you see Stefan in the saddle, he's a fraction of a step ahead of every horse, and he knows that when he does this is going to happen, and he catches it before it even happens, and as a result, it just makes the long lining look so easy and so effortless. And the things that, and he'd say, okay, now we're going to pick up the counter canter, and I'm like, no way you're going to do that. And sure enough, from 20 feet away on the long lines, the horse picks up the counter canter. And the horse that he had worked with, I think he said he had long lined it like 8 times before. So wow. It's not like it's the super skilled long lining horse either.
Wow. Were there any other ones really that you enjoyed?
Exciting. Yeah, of course I enjoyed them all. I think what was the most. What I really enjoyed the most were the ones that were different, there was no doubt I loved everything about Stefan. But again, I loved the getting to know him. I loved the panel, the afterwards, all the discussion. Of course, I enjoyed watching him coach to be honest. It was a beautiful mare, actually, that he coached. And that was great. But I think you see that, it's fantastic, but I think you see that more often than not. You have the trainers' conferences down here where you watch an amazing rider coach the super horse, and it's all beautiful. But it was the other things before it and after it that I have to say were really my favorites. And then the different things like the in-hand work was really cool with Arthur Kodas, I think is how you say his last name. I just hadn't seen much of the true in-hand work. I really haven't seen a whole lot of. And I thought he was really neat to see. I actually just went to Vienna to the Spanish riding school in December for the first time. So it was really fun. He showed a video, and it was all of stuff that happened at the there was a lot of Spanish riding school stuff, and there were a lot of things that he did that I had just seen over in Austria. So that was kind of fun. So yeah, I think the variation is huge. Like you went from a dressage or basic dressage, upper level horses, and then it went to in-hand stuff, and then it went back to another upper level horse, and then it went to a young horse, and then you have Ingrid, who just was the wild card in all directions, and she started her speech off with a video of her running cross country at the Olympics. So you go to a dressage forum, and the first thing we watch is her galloping cross country, and that was actually very cool because it's one thing to watch it, which, I watched a lot of the cross country from London, but to watch it with the rider standing there saying, at this moment I was thinking he was going to be tired, but he just surged up the hill. And at this moment I had to sit and do a little half halt because he just kept going. And then here I had planned to trot, but he was so happy. Like it was really, really cool to hear her go through the entire cross country course with you. And she told us what she was thinking with every fence, every gallop, everything. She was telling us what her plan was and what her plan ended up being based on how her horse felt. And it was, for her, she said it was like it was like a ride of her life. Like the horse was so with her, and he was so happy, and he was so fit, and it just was, it truly looked effortless, but she said it really truly felt effortless too, as far as like he just was happy and wanted to do it. So that was kind of fun too, like just to hear her talk about it, and you almost feel like you're in the moment with her. It was really exciting.
Incredible.
And then,
Incredible.
Yeah, that was really
great.
neat. And she was just a huge breath of fresh air and funny, and she was just, it was neat. So overall, I think it was great. They had a little scheduling issue the first day, and they got really behind as far as the timing goes. And I think people got a little backed off because of that. But they fixed it. The next day, everything was perfect. Everything ran like clockwork. And that's where you just have to go, you know what? It's the first time. We got to figure stuff out. And they did. They figured it out right away. Exactly. It was totally trial and error. And I have to say there really wasn't that much error for it being the first time. And I definitely plan to go next year if it all happens again.
Wonderful. Well, Jody, thank you so much for coming on and giving us your perspective about the GDF North America. It sounds like a wonderful event. I have to get down to Florida for a few more of these things.
I highly recommend it.
Where can people find you on the internet?
My website, jodykellydressage.com.
Well, what a great interview with Jody Kelly. Next up, we have a trainer tip from Nicholas Fife, a Australian dressage rider based out of Wellington and also Canada.
Well, Nicholas, we're so happy to have you on the show this evening and really looking forward to hearing your perspective on this week's trainer's tip about how you hold a balanced position. Can you get us started?
Thanks for having me on, guys. This is what I want to talk about this evening. I think everyone's already heard about why it is really important to have a balanced position as a rider, and we all know that it really affects how effective our A's are as a rider. I just wanted to talk about how I actually maintain an effective position myself. I think I'm at a little bit of an advantage because I get a lot of practice, and I ride about 10 horses every day, so I certainly get enough time in the saddle. And that's something that a lot of the adult amateur riders find harder because they may be only riding one horse a day. So it is really important that they maximize their time in the saddle when they're on that one horse. So first of all, I get a lot of practice. But I was actually a competitive gymnast when I was younger, so I'm fairly aware of my own body, and I know when it's right, and I certainly know when it's wrong. So when I'm feeling unbalanced in the saddle, or I feel some asymmetries, or something's just not quite in alignment, then I try and work it out in the gym. And I spend a fair bit of time doing yoga, not as much as I would really like to when it gets really busy in the season right now, but I try and do a couple of sessions each week. And if I feel like I can't fix it myself in the yoga studio, I take advantage of the fact that we have a in-house Pilates instructor at Still Point Farm where I'm based. We're really lucky, and she stretches me and pulls me and puts me back into position, and that seems to really help me find my position back to its balance and center of gravity.
Excellent. Do you have any more ideas maybe while you're riding? What can you do to kind of become body aware or a little stronger in places where you need to be?
Yeah, I constantly check. I constantly analyze how I'm sitting. And I always, when I'm teaching and when I'm riding, I like to think about what it would look like if someone took a bird's eye view photograph from the rider from above. And I always like to think that I would be perfectly centered over the horse, that I have a seat bone either side of the horse's spine, that my spine is positioned perfectly vertically in line with the horse. And I always try to think of what the view would look like from above so that everything is in perfect symmetry. And I just constantly remind myself to think how it feels to the horse with the way we sit on them, and how we can sit in a way that we make it easier for the horse to travel. I have to remind myself about my position every day. I worked very hard to get a nice position, but it doesn't just stay like that. I constantly have to work on it all the time.
Well, and I love that comment, because I think it's a struggle for all riders. You know, we all work every day very, very hard on our position. And I liked how you said that you did a lot of work in the gym and yoga and Pilates. How do you make that a priority in your schedule? Because you have such a busy schedule.
That's a really good question, and it's something that I find very hard to do. It's easier for me when I'm in Wellington than when I'm based in Canada for the summer, because when I'm in Wellington, everything's much closer and concentrated here in Florida, so it's easier to get to the gym because it's much closer to home. And also, I find if I just go to the general yoga classes at the gym, and if I decide that if I'm going to book an appointment with my Pilates instructor, I feel if I'm investing some money into it, I know I'll be there, and I know I'll put all of my energy into it, and that's how I really get committed to it. Once you invest some money into something, then it makes you work that little bit harder at it.
Yeah. It's harder to cancel when you're going to lose that little bit of money or whatever. I think that's important. No, I think
exactly.
the three main areas, like I think getting instruction, the use of mirrors when you can use them, and maybe some videotaping is three ways to really work on your position. Do you guys have anything to add to that? Maybe Nicholas, you can talk, and then Reese.
Yeah, I utilize all of those things. But I just think that eyes on the ground are really important. I don't think I ever ride unsupervised. I certainly would never ride with anyone on the farm, just purely out of a safety aspect. But I very rarely ride a horse without someone watching me. And I know I'm a professional and I do this for a living, but I still think that it's that important that I ride with supervision every day, so that I do stay on track and that I do maintain a clear system in my training.
Yeah, I think I agree. Sometimes when I'm in Kentucky, I don't, and I'm not able to have instruction all the time. But I'm lucky. My sister, we've talked about her on the show before, has ridden Grand Prix. So if I really feel like I've got something not going well, I'll call her out, or my mom. I also have my assistant trainer who can come out and say, oh yeah, hey, it looks a little this way. So I think utilizing the people that are around you, for the riders that can't get instruction, obviously that's the best, but for sure having people around that are watching and are taking care of your position. I think every lesson I teach, try to give each of my students a little tidbit on their position. Say, okay, you need to move here, you need to be there. So I think just also us all paying attention to the detail of the position is critical as well.
Yeah,
I agree
don't
with
think.
you.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think you have to have a world-class trainer all the time, but just a riding buddy to say, look, you're really leaning to the left, or just a reminder, sit up, because I think we can all kind of get into ride, trying to figure out the horse so much, or just trying to make the horse have, the perfect shoulder in or the perfect half pass, that we don't realize we're leaning over to the side or something like that.
Yep.
I agree. I've spent much time when I was based in Australia riding on my own, and I think sometimes there is a benefit in that, because it gives you confidence to make a mistake and work something out on your own, and you can really figure out this problem on your own because there's no one else there to help you. So there is a benefit in riding on your own, and I just think it's important that you don't do it for extended periods of time. But as you said, even if it's just a riding buddy watching, I think just the fact that you have someone there overseeing your riding is going to make you ride that little bit better, put in a little bit more effort, and go the extra mile to improve.
Oh, absolutely. And then just like you said, the extra effort. I think I always tease my students that, I'll give them a lesson and they're like, wow, I just can't live without you. And I tease them that it's job security, but it's very true. I think we all have to focus on that. And as students and, Nicholas, how often in an ideal world, how often would you do, your yoga and your Pilates and your different type of exercises?
In an ideal world, I would work out at the gym 4 times a week, and 2 of those sessions would be yoga sessions. The other sessions I do, honestly, are just weight training, and that, to be honest, is not so. For me, it's not so positive for my riding. I just like to look good at the beach with my shirt off. But,
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
I like the honesty.
Yeah, it's good for you. It's very good for your core strength. I would like to do yoga at least twice a week. But the other thing that's really important for me to sit really well is that I'm not exhausted. When I'm really tired, I find it really hard to maintain a great position, and I really find that I need one day in the week where I don't ride a horse, where I really have time for my body to relax and to rest. And then normally that's a Monday when I'm lucky, and then on Tuesday, I get back on the horse and I'm feeling good to go. But for me, it's very important to get enough rest.
Oh, I second that. I also need a day for my body and my mind to not sit on my horses all the time. So, but Nicholas, this was such great insight on your riding and how you take care of your body to be the best rider that you can be. How can we find you on the internet?
You can go to my website. It's www.nicholasfifedressage.com, or you can find me on Facebook, Nicholas J. Fife, or follow me on Twitter, Nicholas Fife.
Do you want to give us the spelling of your last name there, Nicholas? Just in case.
F-Y-F-F-E. That's F for Foxtrot, Y-F-F for Foxtrot E.
Well, that was terrific. What 3 enthusiastic guests you had here today.
Wonderful guest this week.
Yeah.
This was fun. I enjoyed, because I also wasn't, we weren't there, so it was really fun to get a firsthand take on everything. So that was fun.
Well, we had a post on Facebook I have to read to you. Remember Rhonda from Canada, one of our legacy listeners, was complaining because I couldn't say Guelph, Gulf or Guelph or whatever it is. And then What?
Stop.
What?
It's Guelph. I was supposed to teach you.
Guelph. Why is there a W in it then if it's Guelph?
Because it would be weird. G-W?
Okay, this is what she says. Thanks, Philip Parks, for not only did you teach Glenn how to pronounce, apparently not, Guelph properly, but you hit the nail on the head with your explanation of the significance of Guelph to us Canadian horse people.
Well, there we go. Guelph, it's a great place, and it has a great school, and Glenn will learn one day.
Maybe we should go there. We need a field trip.
Let's just a field trip to Guelph.
Yeah, that's what we need.
I don't know what you're going to do.
Yeah, not this time of year.
Yeah, okay. We'll wait till the snow's gone. It's a beautiful town, though. It's great.
Okay, so who will win the Masters? I'm taking a look at our Facebook page, and boy, a lot of people saying Heather and Paragon, Stephen Peters, Heather, Lyle. Oh boy, I don't know that anybody's getting it right.
This U.S. love.
Stefan.
I have a Swedish listener.
Yeah, I know. Stefan or nobody got it actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
not
next
good.
time, this is what you get with
I
horses.
think next
and
year
betting.
maybe Legolas will be a
Yeah.
winner, or Aragon will be a little more seasoned, and you can bring the championship home.
This is why the house always wins when you gamble.
Yes,
This is why
exactly.
right here.
This is why I'm not a gambling woman. I
It's
already lose
gamble
enough
from
on
your
horses.
heart and not from the statistics. Is that
All right. Now, one other thing before we go. Did you guys see the Budweiser has a new Super Bowl commercial? Did you see it?
I have not seen it.
Oh, it has a baby. It's so cute. You have to go. You have to check it out. It's all over Facebook.
Game. I like to watch the commercials during the game.
I know. Well, that's the only thing that usually in a Super Bowl is worth watching. But
I don't know.
yeah, I mean, it is really good. And remember, last year they didn't have one. And they got so much crap about it. That's why they did one this year. So.
Well, we have a little horse show. There is a horse show down here, a little schooling show that I'm taking Denali. Baby D is going to go do a little schooling show. But also there's a Super Bowl party at the horse show. And you are in Florida.
Gonna have a big screen?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but we're going to go to the horse show Super Bowl party.
How can you have a Super Bowl party without showing the game?
Yeah, they've got to show the game.
I got to be somewhere.
I will let you know, but that's our Super Bowl plans down here is that the horse show. How cool is that?
So now, do you drink before you ride at the Super Bowl party, or
the game's late?
Or does
isn't
a
it?
horse open a keg and
Hey, I have a minor. He's only 4. He can't open it.
he's not allowed to drink?
But you have to tell us how that horse show Super Bowl is.
Do you guys watch the Super Bowl in Canada?
Of course,
No,
the
just
whole
checking.
world watches the Super Bowl. Yeah,
I
I'm
just
a football
checking.
fan, right? Remember, I told
Yeah.
you guys I had
Yeah,
a
that's
fantasy
true.
team and da da da.
Yeah, you're not a soccer fan, if I remember right.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know anything about soccer.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everybody has a great Super Bowl. Be safe, be happy, be healthy, have fun. And we look forward to hearing and talking with you next week. You can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
You can find me at philipparksequestrian.com, and my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Equestrian Collections and Kentucky Performance Products. And don't forget to check out all the other great shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we will talk to you next week.